Hello and welcome to the For Pete's Sake podcast. I'm David O'Connor with eXp Realty.
And I'm Alex Blancombe with eXp Realty.
And today we're going to be reviewing the Peterborough City June 2023 market stats. And as usual, we got the deal of the month and we got the tip of the month for you. Alex, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, things are going well. Enjoying the summer. It's crazy to think about how quickly it's flying by. I remember it felt like, I don't know, last week that we recorded the May episode. So yeah, it's a little bit nuts. What about you?
Oh, it's good. Summer, kids keep them busy, right? You think you're going to have more time, but you have less time. But
Yeah.
you got a big event coming up in October, don't you?
Yeah. Getting married, tying the knot. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to that. Fun thing that happened this week is played squash for the first time. You ever played squash?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I play some squash.
It's way more fun than tennis. I got to tell you.
I mean, I don't play squash, but we should play a game really soon and bet a lot of money on it.
Yeah, we should. We should
film it.
We went to Trent. We should film it. We went to Trent 2 days ago, and it was $17 for the family to go play. And yeah, it's a great time. So check that out, and definitely we should bet on it and film it.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. The Peterborough Squash Club, it's up Shamong. It's just phenomenal. I hadn't played squash in a long time, and I joined 2019, maybe late 2018, and played up until the pandemic, and then I haven't been back. I really need to dust off the old racket, but
yeah,
it's good.
Are you a goggles guy or no?
Oh no, you should wear goggles, but I don't. I'd sooner like turn my head.
Yeah. The wife
you almost need it. When you're playing good players, you don't need goggles, but it's like the people who just don't know what they're doing. Then sometimes I'm like, you know what? Let me put on some full headgear.
Yeah, you're gonna want the headgear when we play.
I've seen the damage done. I've seen people's welts on their eyes, and they had goggles on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big advocate of the eye goggles, but don't do what I do. Just do what I say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, thanks for preparing the deck. Let's jump into this.
Yeah. Let's see how we're looking. So yeah, there's a typical agenda there. A little bit of an intro. Let's start, I guess, with the intro. And let's talk about the lovely Bank of Canada. We're not going to touch too much on this, but we had an increase on July 12th of a 0.25% to the Bank of Canada's overnight rate. And that bumped their overnight rate up to 5%. And it officially marks, I believe it's the highest interest rate since 2001. So that's a little bit nuts. And it pushed your variables into the sevens. Roughly, you can kind of go low sevens, maybe for your variable rate, and your fixed rate, I believe, is sitting around the low sixes for most of the big five banks. But definitely speak with a mortgage broker to get a more official number.
Yeah, aren't they talking September? There might be another increase, right?
Yeah, I hope not, because I mean, we won't touch it on really macro stuff, but let's kind of just speak about boots on the ground. We're definitely seeing some declines in buyer demand and also seller demand, which is a little bit strange to think about. But these sellers, from the conversations I'm having, they're hesitant to sell because they don't want to break their mortgage and have to renew or take a blended rate at a 5 or a 6. If they, locked in a 2% fixed for 5 years, why would I break my mortgage and move somewhere and potentially pay a 5 or a 6%? So a little bit of hesitancy from those sellers. And they're also nervous to sell because they've noticed the buyer's purchasing power decline because those interest rates have gone up. Maybe you could afford a $700,000 before, and now you can only afford a $650,000. So that ultimately brings the value of a seller's house down because the seller's house is worth whatever a buyer is willing to pay for it. So I'm definitely seeing those conversations throughout the market, just anecdotally speaking, talking with sellers, talking with buyers. There's a lot of hesitancy going on in the market. What about you? What are you seeing?
Yeah, pretty much same thing you're seeing. I thought like getting some listings, it was going to be great. People are starting to hold, and they're going to sell themselves. But it looks like us realtors with listings still have to work, which I don't mind. But yeah, it's a mixed market, and I almost find like week to week or neighborhood to neighborhood, it's just different. It's like at a lower price point, maybe you can hold in this market. Here in a neighborhood where something would normally go at 7, it's just not moving. It's almost like you just got to stay close to the numbers and monitor what's happening. And it's changing week to week, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. It's nuts. And it definitely, like, I know it was only a quarter point, but it definitely kind of felt like it punched sentiment right in the stomach. And, buyers and sellers are both like, okay, well, I'm listening to the news, and this, even though it was only a quarter point, this really hurt, and it really hurt the sentiment. It felt like things were kind of going strong a bit before the June hike. But yeah, definitely two back-to-back quarter points. It seems to have deflated the market.
And didn't you find the last one didn't impact the market, but was just humming along nicely, and we got hit with the first quarter point, and then I feel like it didn't impact much. And then this second one, though, you're right, it just knocked the wind out of everybody. Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, let's see what happens the next 6 months. But here's kind of year over year, not a huge decline in average price. I mean, 3%, that's not, it's pretty, I mean, it's a decline, but it's not as bad as we had seen earlier in this year in that crazy spring market. New listings are down, sales increased by 44% roughly. So that's awesome to see. A lot more buyer activity in June. Again, despite what happened on July 12th, we did see a pretty strong June market, comparatively speaking, year over year. Days to sell has also gone up slightly, but I think we're still under a month for days to sell, which is pretty good for sellers. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Well, they jump out. Like the days to sell makes sense to me because we were starting to hold there on a lot of properties, so they're moving quick. But now the appetite for holdings not there for most price points, so they're sitting a little bit longer. And it's the days of summer, like it starts in June. I'm feeling it. The one thing is, it does feel like even though there's a lot going on, it does feel like a traditional year. Like summer gets a little sluggish. We had a pretty good spring. I'm just hoping it continues that way, and then we have a nice little pop in the fall.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to predict. I think it all depends on kind of how the buyers and sellers adjust to the news that's coming out. Again, I can't say. It's really tough to predict, and I think anyone that's telling you what's going to happen 3-4 months from now, you should probably take with a grain of salt, because they probably don't know either.
Yeah. Not to toot my own horn, but remember I thought by June we would catch up year over year.
Yeah.
The other prediction I made was we would spike in year, and by the end of the year we'd be back. Remember, I thought our January average sale price would be very similar in December, but I thought it'd be a roller coaster up, then it would come back down. So
yeah,
where we end.
Yeah, let's look at this graph and see how the roller coaster's looking. Yeah, I mean, look at that. You spiked there in 2022 spring, you come back down, and then we started to go back up slightly. You had a crazy, I believe that was March, when we looked at that. Yeah, I believe that's March or April, sorry, where it was 695.
Yeah, I remember that those April numbers caught us off guard. We knew it was going to go up, but that was quite the jump in April.
Huge jump. Yeah, huge jump. I think that was the one where it was like a 12% increase or something.
Yeah, but then
month over month.
And now it's corrected the next 2 months.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there at 634 for June.
Yeah. Now, what's great to see is, do you look at the May to June jump last year, where we almost lost $100,000, and you look at this year? I mean, I think that's $12,000 roughly. Yeah, that's not bad, month over month. It is a decline, but it's not as extreme as we saw last year. Yeah, so new listings. I mean, nothing really surprising here when you look at that graph. It's nice to see. June tends to be one of the hottest months for new listings, which is ironic because it's also one of the hottest months for weather.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I thought it is typically a busier month, but the other thing too is we just saw that spike in April for average price. So, but those numbers come out in May. So you have sellers, potential sellers, seeing those, the prices soaring, and by the time they prepare their property, they're going to market, in June. So I also think that could be a little bit of influencing it as well.
Yeah, and you could see that on a year over year basis as well, because the spring market tends to be pretty hot. You get those sellers that see those spring stats and come to market in June. So yeah, you can see there, I mean, a pretty big spike. If you look at the March number, we're almost 100 new listings for the month above that March number, 98 versus 193. So pretty crazy to see there. Again, we're still a little bit behind what we were last year when everything was crazy. Same kind of effect, I would think, where you had that crazy spring run up and sellers prepared their home for sale, finally came to the market in June. So yeah, definitely cool to see that.
Yeah, and if it's kind of feeling like a typical season, then you'll see a drop July, August as vacations ramp up. People are doing families are doing vacations, and then we'll get that, hopefully, that fall pop.
Yeah, for sure. And now we can look at number of sales again. You've got some activity increasing month over month there, which tends to be pretty typical, at least the way the graph's looking, where you see a little bit of a dip kind of in that winter, and then it increases up to the summer.
That's a pretty good jump.
Yeah. So 118 down from, or up from 96. And you look at 65 in March, 50 in February. That 118 is looking pretty good. So yeah, it's neat to see. It's also great to see, again, similar to the new listings, you see a lot of activity really in terms of sales in the month of June. So it's interesting to see that. I know you touched on it last slide, but definitely, the kids coming out of school, maybe you're seeing a little bit of a dip in July, which we certainly saw last year. Let's see if we see it in 2023.
It's interesting. A lot of these slides, if you remove 2020, 21, and 22, the pandemic and the kind of coming back from the pandemic, then 2023 looks like it's trending like 2018, 2019 in a lot of these slides.
Yeah, absolutely. Now here's a fun one to look at. This is your active listings versus number of sales. So this is a good way to kind of gauge the supply and demand in the market. It's really tough to gauge the demand, but this is kind of one way we can look at it: the number of sales, the number of buyers that transacted during the month. So you've got your blue bar as the number of sales and your green bar as the number of active listings.
Yeah, and it looks like it's been pretty steady now for a little while. Definitely seems 2023.
Yeah, it seems like that difference between the green and blue bar, it is increasing slightly, but it's definitely been pretty steady. As that green bar goes up, that blue bar seems to go up as well.
Yeah, and it looks like the green's gone up just a little bit, and that will probably tie into what I think is coming next, because the days on market went up a little bit. So I always note when we show this slide, it's not new listings, it's active. So you have spillover from the previous month as well. So if it's taking a little bit longer to sell, it would make sense why the month over month greens seem to have gone up just a little bit there.
Yeah, so you see the number there. You can look at a difference between those active listings and the number of sales. You can see that slightly increase. I mean, maybe it's by 8, maybe it's by 10 every month, but it is slightly increasing. You compare that to 2022, where in some cases, at least in the winter, we saw a crazy amount of sales for the month and a very low amount of active listings. That seems to have flipped, thankfully, and we're seeing more active listings than we are sales now. So yeah, let's see if that trend continues. You do see a huge difference in June of 2022, 205 active listings, 82 sales for the month. Not as big a difference in June of 23, 171 active listings and 118 sales. So a lot more sales, but slightly less new or active listings. Mm-hmm. And like you said, days to sell. So it is a little interesting there. You can see a slight downtick. Again, not crazy. Maybe it's 1 day for days to sell. So roughly the same. Okay. 2 days.
Yeah. So I was wrong. I thought the days to sell went up, but it went down.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. It looks like it went down year over year, and slightly went down month over month. Not a huge change there. I mean, 18 versus 16, it's pretty much the same. And we've seen that pretty stable since March. Yes, it has declined since March, but you got 20, 18, and 16. So not a huge change. You know, roughly it's going to take you 2.5 weeks to sell your home.
Yeah, and kind of
on average.
July will be up a few days at least, just because it seems there's less holdings. Things seem to be sitting just a little longer in the last month.
Yeah, I agree. Months of inventory, again, take this one with a grain of salt. It does say 1. So sellers, I mean, you can still get excited, but we're not necessarily at 1. I don't know if I took a picture of the graph, but we're just slightly below 2. So we did see a drop in months of inventory, which means the market is getting a little bit tighter and statistically moving more towards that seller's market than it has previously this year. For Jan, Feb, March, April, May, and now June, we're lower than we were in all of those months. So the market is tighter than it was in the previous months this year.
Yeah, I was expecting to see that start to go the other way, but not yet.
Yeah, it's not a huge jump. I think it was, we're pretty much, I think we dropped a sliver, but that sliver did put us down in the 1.95 instead
Right.
of, you know, the 2.05. So we dropped a sliver, but we did actually come down month over month. So definitely statistically moving more towards that seller's market. Now, this is interesting. We touched on this last month, and it's something that we're going to keep doing. But it's the price distribution in June. So what we did was we analyzed all of the sales in June and tried to stick them in a price bracket. So what's neat here is you see the most amount of sales. So the most amount of homes that sold under $500,000. So that's a really interesting statistic, because look here, you can see 21% sold under $500,000. So we look at that and, okay, maybe we can start to see why that price dropped month over month, because there was a higher amount of those sales were a lower price than they were last month. And we can see that again, 58% of the sales of the homes sold under that $650,000 mark.
Yeah,
so
sweet spot. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot in that over 800 to like a million or 1.1 range. There just hasn't been a lot of options for buyers.
Yeah, it's definitely a market where, I mean, you can see under that $500,000 mark, it's generally your first time buyer product. Those tend to get scooped off the shelf pretty quickly, because we have so many first time buyers that are just waiting to get into home ownership. Whereas that 800,000 and up, you really, I mean, that's your move up buyer. Maybe you're moving into your forever home. You know, maybe you're trading up from a 750 to 800, and you want to go purchase that, you know, 900 to $1 million, either new build, waterfront, or home in the West End. So yeah, definitely seeing a lot more activity from those first time buyers, and it seems to be reflected here in the price distribution.
Yeah, I think you'll always see more at this price point, because you got the first time home buyers, you've got the downsizers, and then especially in Peterborough with the university and the college, there's a lot of investment properties, and we've seen a decent turnover in those lately too. So yeah, it's not surprising.
Yeah, and it is tough to find an investment that makes sense in this market. Luckily, we did find one for our deal of the month. But let's talk about this tip of the month. So, Dave, talk to me a little bit about maybe what are some signs that the market might be shifting. So what do we see as realtors, where either we're kind of shifting from a seller's market to a buyer's market, or we're shifting from a buyer's market to a seller's market? What are some signs that we can look for, that we can perhaps tell the general public kind of what we see and how we can indicate whether or not that market might be moving towards, you know, maybe a buyer's or a seller's market?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider. I guess one is just year over year is a good example. This time last year, or a little bit earlier in 2022, you were seeing a lot of buyers having to go in clean with no conditions, because we're in such a heavy seller's market. Right now, there's an appetite. I'd say a good percentage, almost a vast majority of sales right now are conditional, with at least a finance and inspection on it. So there's more of an appetite to get conditions in if you're a buyer right now. which is good because people were going in reckless and they're taking on a lot of risk last year. So yeah, I'd say that's one thing, is just seeing a lot of the deals that are happening the last few months getting being done with conditions in place.
Yeah. And particularly, I mean, I think we've both seen one condition that probably wouldn't have flown in the past, couple of years. It's that sale of buyer's property condition. I'm shocked how many I'm seeing in the market where I'll look kind of every day and we'll look at, okay, what are the conditional sales? And you can see what type of condition most of the time is attached to that sale. And I'm seeing probably, it was crazy there. I think for a week or two, I had seen maybe 1 in 8, maybe 1 in 10 had a sale of buyer's property condition on it, which is rare. That's rare because basically, if you're trying to buy a home, this condition is the best condition for you to put in. If you have to sell your house in order to buy that home, you're protected to the nines if you have this condition in your offer. But as a seller, okay, why would I want to? I can only sell. I'm going to set up a scenario where I only sell my home if that buyer sells their home. Well, what if that buyer overprices their home and it sits on the market for 40 days and now my home drops in value because the market's going down? Why would I want to take that risk? So that's a huge sign, I think, that we're starting to see the market shift. Is we're seeing more and more sale of buyer property conditions getting accepted. It's one thing to submit that with your offer. It's a whole other thing for a seller to accept that.
Yeah, to me, it means there's just less offers on property, because if I'm the listing agent and we get an offer in on our property that has an SOBP, but there's nobody else, then why not accept it? Because all of those conditions come with an escape clause. And if it doesn't, you counter offer to get the escape clause in. So if you've got no other buyer, why not accept it if you like all the other terms? If you like the price and the closing and all the other terms of the deal, when they submit that offer, they have the property. Then they name the property they have to sell. So you usually vet that before you accept it. And sometimes I even have a conversation about what price are you thinking about going in at. So why not, if you like the price and everything else and your house isn't selling, why not accept it if there's only one offer? Because you can still show your property, accept another offer, and potentially bump that offer as well. So that's, to me, it's a sign that there's these properties are only getting one offer or one good offer. So they'll play with the SOBP as long as they have an escape clause.
Yeah. Or the property's been sitting for a while and now it's like, okay, well, we haven't received an offer in 45, 50 days. And now we get one that's, I mean, most of the time you will get pretty close to list price if you are going to have an SOBP from a buyer on an offer. Most of the time you're listed at 650. It's going to be a 650 with an SOBP. And that is another sign of the market, because we're not in a total buyer's market yet. Buyers do have to pay if they do want to submit an offer with an SOBP. But again, best case scenario for that buyer is they have the opportunity to get a certain price for their home so that they can pay that 650 and move up into their future home.
And I can't wait to get into a buyer's market so we can bring back vendor take back mortgages.
Oh yeah,
and get creative and do things like that. But
maybe a tip for next month, we can talk about vendor take back mortgages.
Yeah, or maybe we'll start trying to bring them back.
Yeah,
I've only ever gotten a couple in on the residential side, but obviously they're commonplace on the commercial side.
Yeah. Okay, so deal of the month here. We've got 82 Almer Street North, units 1 and 2. So remember, I was telling you guys that we had a sweet duplex deal for you here. Well, here we are. So you can see here, we've got a legal brick duplex in Peterborough's downtown. It offers two bedroom units. So each unit is, I'm guessing, a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, and it's legal. So that means that the city has come through and said, yes, this is allowed to be a duplex. You can see here they had an electrical site assessment done, and they also had a fire inspection come through and approved that, yes, this is a safe dwelling for 2 separate units, which is awesome to see. Now, here's where it gets even more awesome. The main floor tenant currently pays $19.50 per month. Wow. So that is pretty cool. Why is that pretty cool? Well, what I did was I kind of took a rough estimate for a mortgage, and I went over to RBC. They have a mortgage calculator, and with 20% down on a $400,000 purchase price, or $80,000, you need a mortgage of $320,000. Now, your monthly payment on that mortgage with a current interest rate of 6.29%, you've got a fixed rate amortization 25 years. Again, this is all taken from that RBC mortgage calculator. I didn't plug anything in except for the mortgage amount, $320,000. So your monthly mortgage payment would be $2,102.87. And $1,950 of that is getting covered by the tenant. And that would be if you wanted to live in the other unit. If you didn't want to live in the other unit and you wanted to rent it out for another $1,950, well, now you're just looking at, maybe an extra $1,800 roughly of monthly income that you can devote towards, your maintenance. If you want property management, vacancy, you can run all your numbers on that, but it gives you a nice surplus to work with if you're able to get this property for $400,000. So, a couple pictures here just of the exterior. So we don't actually have any pictures of the interior. And in terms of neighborhood, you're on Almer Street North. So you are really in the downtown core. So we'll see here if it pulls up the location. So there's Delcrary Park right there, home of the Peterborough Music Fest for the summer. Come check that out if you haven't already. There's Little Lake there, so you can actually launch a kayak or canoe off of Crescent Street, I believe, right here. The art gallery is also right here. You are in this central location for Peterborough. That's kind of why the price is what it is. And you're also kind of next to, you back onto this plaza right here, which has Lakeview Bowl. It also has, I believe there's a pizza in there as well. So you've got kind of some commercial shopping in here. And here's your location right here, kind of on the corner of Rink Street and Almer Street North. So you're definitely downtown, which is where we do see a lot of these multiplex dwellings. But you can argue with the numbers. This one makes a ton of sense.
This one is holding. So I suspect this one will sell a decent bit above this list price. But even if you get this in the mid fours, the numbers look really strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, $1,950 of income right now, and then you've got a vacant 2-bed, 1-bath unit. Which, what would you say a 2-bed, 1-bath unit rents for? Right now, the other side is $1,950. So I think you could comfortably run numbers at $1,800. Yeah,
I'm guessing at that price that's a newer tenant, because that seems on par for that area. Like around $2,000. Yeah, like if you're getting 4 for that, and you're only in it for a mortgage payment of $450. I think you're sitting pretty. And again, prime location for a short walk to downtown. The buses, there's a decent amount of student houses in that area.
Yep. And I believe a bus runs up and down George Street right here. So yeah, definitely easy access to the downtown, to Delcrary Park, to Little Lake. Crescent Street's a beautiful walk. If you ever get the chance, definitely walk down there. One of my favorite spots. Little Lake Cemetery is also a beautiful spot. So yeah, definitely a cool property there. If you have any questions about it, you want to know what it sells for, just give us a holler, and we'll let you know. We'd love to kind of also help you out if you need to run any numbers on it.
Awesome. Here we go. Another one in the books there, Alex.
Yeah, another one in the books. I don't know what episode this is, if we're on episode 9 or 10.
I think
it's always a pleasure.
This is the 9th.
Episode 9. Right on. Always a pleasure. Thank you for your time, Dave. And thanks for your input on everything. It's awesome getting to do these with you. So I appreciate your time.
No. And again, I appreciate putting all this together. And maybe episode 10 will be on the squash court.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a little blooper reel before we start of you missing all those squash balls.
We'll see. I'll have to dust it out and practice again, or maybe I'll just go in cold. I'll give you what I call the tour. I just drop to the front, to the back. You got cardio.
Uh-oh.
We'll test the cardio. We'll see how it goes. The only problem is I probably won't break a sweat, so I won't get a.
I probably will.
Yeah, that's the plan. We'll definitely get some video. I'll just, in the least, if we don't shoot an episode from there, I'll at least randomly cut highlights of our match into one of the podcasts.
Perfect.
I got you. All right, man. Well,
all right, brother. Let's sign us off here. Here we go. Thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks for watching. Again, our contact info is down below. If you want to reach out, you have any questions about anything, just feel free to reach out anytime. And without further ado, that's all, folks. Take care.